600 kilowatt peak charging. Again, that's crazy. We're gonna have to test it. And I have to really commend NIO. This battery swap thing sounds kind of dumb until you experience it. By the way, the sound system in here, we can't show it on camera, almost 3,000 watts. We've got all the peasant blockers coming up here. The other thing I should mention is this vehicle is one of the few vehicles here that will have 3 LiDAR systems. I want to say a huge thank you to Climate Exchange for sponsoring this out of spec video. Guys, they are running their 9th EV giveaway raffle. And of course, we've been telling you about it over the last few months. We have entered the last month of the raffle. We're getting close to the end. At February 28th, it is the last day where they are going to be selling tickets. What will you get if you win? Well, if you win, they are giving away $120,000 worth of EV. That means you can choose a Rivian, a Cybertruck, a Model S Plaid, the list goes on. And they are, of course, including all taxes and fees for the winning prize. There's also a second and third place winner. The second place winner will get $12,500 towards whatever they want, really, cash prize, and $7,500 for the third place winner. For those of you who don't know, Climate Exchange is a nonprofit helping states pass laws to fight climate change. They've sold well over half of the 5,000 tickets available, so don't miss out. So again, thank you to Climate Exchange for sponsoring this video. All you have to do is head to carbonraffle.org/out-of-spec. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video, and welcome here to the Shanghai area, and I have got the big boy. This is the new top dog in the NIO lineup. This is the ET9, an ultra luxury executive electric cruiser. I can't wait to show you around it because we've been covering NIO on this channel for a long time. We've driven models all the way back from some older Norwegian trips and now here in China on long road trips, but we've primarily been driven what's known as sort of ET1 and ET2 platform cars. This is the new ground up ET3 level, everything, or at least a ton of stuff, done in-house, ultra luxury, new platform, new in-house chips to run the infotainment and driver assistance software, absolutely insane suspension, crazy charging performance. Cannot wait to take you on a sort of pre-release tour. This is a car that is going into series production in just a matter of weeks. This is a series intent prototype, so it is essentially identical to what the cars will look like coming out of the Hefei factory, where I was just happy or lucky enough to go on a tour of the factory where this car is built. That will be a video either upcoming or previously uploaded on this channel. So join me for a full in-depth tour of the NIO ET9. You guys join me in a mall nearby the Shanghai area, and I've just spilled some hot pot on my sweatshirt, so apologies for this. You also see this in a few upcoming videos because we have some videos planned to film after this one today. The first thing I want to mention is this color. Normally I'm not a color guy, I'm not a style guy. This blue is deep, it's rich, it's beautiful. It's really a nice color, and I think fits the vibe of this car perfectly. Come along the side. I've got this thing slammed in the lowest possible suspension height that it will go to. I think it just looks awesome. When I initially saw the photos, the spy photos of the ET9, I was a little bit worried. I'm like, are they making this sort of bubble SUV thing? And then seeing it in person, I'm like, oh no, this is a really cool design. They say it's jet inspired. I'm not sure anything on this car looks like a jet from my perspective, but that's not to say it looks bad. It looks really cool. We popped the spoiler, which typically on cars I'm like not a fan of. I like to have this very natural line look, but I think it looks great with the, sort of dinner table up in the rear, and overall this thing, I'm really loving the styling. It's got this like totally, I don't know, upscale but not overly done look to it until you look inside. And if I can show you in here, the doors are powered. I'm just pulling on them to open them quicker. Absolutely huge luxury, 4-seat only, no 5-seat option, executive cruiser. This thing would have been amazing on our road trip this past week where we just went on a ride to from Shanghai to Beijing. Oh, the door's super light, really nice, soft close. They're all power doors, of course. And I drove an ET7 Executive Edition, which is currently their like most luxurious sedan that they sell. And it was nice, and it had air suspension with adaptive damper and screens in the back, but it just felt a little bit small and a bit like, think BMW 5 Series or I don't know, Mercedes E-Class type vibe. This is like S-Class Maybach, maybe even better in some ways. It has steer-by-wire, which is the first time in China a vehicle is to be approved with steer-by-wire technology, front and rear axle steering. It has a roughly 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, and it is the highest voltage series production vehicle to ever be sold. Lucid goes up to 924 volts top charge. This one, 925 volts. It is 1 volt higher than a Lucid Air Grand Touring at 100% state of charge. I think it's pretty funny. They got the 1 more volt in there. Ultimately, what that means is this is NIO's first high voltage electric car with a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. I'm not sure about gross and usable capacities. It does open up some questions though about battery swapping, because I believe this vehicle will be limited to just their new 4.0 battery swap locations. So at launch, there's not going to be as many battery swap locations that you can go to as, let's say, an ET7 or an ET5, which I'm sure a lot of people buying this car are current NIO owners, at least at launch, and are used to this insanely vast network of battery swapping, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Also, the charging port, I want to show you that. Because you won't necessarily have access to battery swapping everywhere, isn't really a problem, because this right here, he says, this right here is your DC fast charging port, 600 kilowatt peak charging. Again, that's crazy. We're going to have to test it. I don't even think NIO has a 600 kilowatt charger that we're able to plug this into. The most I've seen has been 500 kilowatt charging. So it's essentially just, you know, going to be a charging monster. But what matters more than the peak is the curve, of course. Now, the other thing I'm noticing is I'm not seeing an AC charging port on this vehicle. I thought it was going to support AC charging. In the Chinese market, NIOs do not support AC charging. They either DC charge or battery swap. Now, for people with home charging needs, you can get this, either a 7, 10, or 20 kilowatt unit. I believe this one's the 20 kilowatt low power DC charger, and it's to save some space and weight and cost to not have AC onboard chargers in the vehicle. However, I really think it's a miss, and I really think they need AC charging because there's a ton of AC charging around in this market. What's interesting though is when you get the European spec NIOs, like we've driven ET7, ES8, ET5 Touring and others in Europe, they all have AC chargers up to, I think, 22 kilowatt, if maybe 11, but I think it's 22 kilowatt. So it's just something about the Chinese market where they don't include them. Yeah, it's got a full matrix LED headlights. One thing I have to give NIO huge props on, because I've been driving them for the last week here in China, the headlights are amazing. The matrix function works really well. They're incredibly bright headlights. And there's also different headlight regulations in China versus America, where the headlights can be brighter here, and you do notice it. It's pretty amazing the light output these things get. The other thing I should mention is this vehicle is one of the few vehicles here that will have 3 LiDAR systems. If you zoom in here on the side, this is part of NIO's Aquila, not sure how to pronounce it, but their sort of top dog ADAS in the vehicles. And it's interesting that NIO is taking a completely different approach with driver assistance across their model range. So with their Envo brand, which is sort of like a Tesla level, they're making a Model Y competitor called the L60. We'll have a video on this channel on that vehicle. It's really cool. They're doing vision only, so no LiDARs on that particular one. But then here in the top ET9, you get 3 LiDARs plus vision, plus radar, plus ultrasonic. And all of the chipsets and electrical architecture is new in this vehicle, and it's completely developed in-house. Some of you may remember when we reviewed the Generation 2 Rivian, a big upgrade of the Generation 2 Rivian was reducing ECU count, reducing reliance on suppliers, and building their own electrical native architecture in-house. And it was so impressive that Volkswagen actually created a JV with Rivian to make this zonal architecture modular for the Volkswagen Group brands. Well, NIO took note of that, and I believe this is the first time a Chinese car has like the most level of vertical integration out of anything ever sold in this market. So it's all like done in-house. And it's about time. NIO was one of the first like Chinese startup electric brands, and they had a ton of fanfare. They went public. There's this big investor push behind the company. You guys know I don't get involved with stocks or company valuations or trading advice. I don't own any automaker stock. But I think it made this big push for the brand to really get the cars out there. And well, maybe that is why they were so successful, at least at first. However, so many other Chinese automakers have started in this market making luxury versions of electric cars. And many of them are startups. They spend a ton of cash. They try and gain market share. They end up burning through their reserves and they go out of business. That is just a common thing here. It's starting to happen less and less. The big players have kind of emerged over the last 3 to 4 years of this crazy startup electric car phase. But one thing is for sure, NIOs are incredibly popular. But they've needed updates. Some of the new cars that are coming out are just like surpassing NIO in user experience and even ride and handling in many areas. And that's something that they really need to get right here. And my guess is the ET9 is going to launch them into the new era where they need to be. Because we've been doing, I don't know, a couple thousand miles this week in ES6 and ET7, and they're nice, but they need this type of stuff. So I really think the top-down approach of this ET3 platform trickling down to the rest of their models over the coming years is going to bring NIO into this like super, I don't know, amazing position in the Chinese lineup of just like having fantastically well-engineered products, all done in-house, under one roof, with a fantastic build quality. And I can say that for sure because I went to spend a day at the factory and it was absolutely amazing. I'm lucky I get to go to a lot of car factories. The Hefei factory where they build these on the all aluminum line, wow, absolutely amazing. And yeah, this car is going to be dialed in. It's a showroom car, so everything's perfect. But yeah, just absolutely impressed. The next thing that gets me really excited about this car is the suspension system on it. The suspension system is comprised of a dual or tri-chamber, maybe even tri-chamber air suspension. It has an insane 220, 240 millimeters of travel up and down. So it can come, you know, here in the lowest setting all the way up to like here. It can go like off-road mode. And so you just have this, whoa, massive range of travel. And on top of that, you have a hydraulic system that feeds the damper and can basically act like Porsche Active Ride system does. The Porsche Active Ride system, you guys will know, has no sway bars, completely infinitely adjustable hydraulic control on each corner of the car. And it can do, I forget exactly how many hertz it can do, but let's say 100 hertz, I think is what that system will do. And it allows like really cool individual wheel movement. This can adjust pressure 10 times as fast as Porsche, and I think even with more force. I mean, this thing could jump if they want it to. And now the videos have gone viral, but Herbert Diess was part of the unveiling of this car, the old CEO of Volkswagen Group, which was really funny. He went over to do stuff with this car, but they did a Maybach S-Class versus ET9 sort of head toss test where they rode over, you know, sort of separating, articulating, rolling bumps in the road, and the Maybach has physically connected sway bars. So the whole car is doing this as you go over bumps. And this thing, because you have individual hydraulic controls, just whoop, 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 whoop. And it's absolutely crazy to see how fast and how well the suspension control is on this. Now, of course, we'll have to drive it. We need to test the tuning. A lot of this comes down to how is the final calibration on the vehicle. It could be great, it could be terrible. And I'm really hoping they focus on calibration here, because that's when you get into this $100,000, this thing's equivalent 100 grand US. When you start getting into this $100,000 sort of high-end luxury vehicle, and here in China, that's a lot of money for an EV. It's not just about the feature list of like, yeah, we have this, we have that, we have this, we have that. It comes down to how well does it do those things? And does it feel natural? And is it gonna have this German level of obsessiveness coming to ride quality? That we will have to wait and see, but everything is looking really great here. Of course, it's dual motor, all-wheel drive, silicon carbide inverters, 1200 volt inverters they claim, and it uses a more powerful rear motor than the front motor. So you essentially have more power on the back than the front, which is what you want. So that's making me think, okay, maybe this is gonna be pretty well tuned. Should we take a look at some space around this thing now? Come around to the back. Wow, just the presence of this car, really cool. And you can tell that the Chinese people really do know kind of what this thing is, because a lot of people have just been coming through at this mall that we're at in the Shanghai area and gawking over this thing going, wow, really, really cool. One nice feature is I can actually raise or lower the car from here. So I can hit this, and maybe because it's already in the lowest suspension height, it won't work. Huh, okay, not sure. But there does seem to be a indication of suspension height with this button right there. We also have a really nice leather strap with this sort of connection point. No underfloor storage. Why would there even be this thing here? But of course you can put a spare tire and your triangle here. There's tie down points throughout the vehicle as well. Great spot, Alyssa. I'm just coming down with this. And a 12-volt port right there in the rear. Not seeing much else other than a emergency kit from NIO, which is, you know, just a standard tire pressure inflator. I guess this could fit. Nope, too big for that. This one goes in this slot. We've got it. Okay, now I don't believe the rear seats fold in any way whatsoever, and the reason is it's got an executive seat, but it does have grocery bag holders. So you can pull these down just on one side. Yep, just on one side, but a pretty cool idea nonetheless. And that's the trunk. There's a little ventilation thing here, maybe perhaps because of a refrigerator in the back. Don't know. That's very common. We'll have to see. I've only sat in the back of this once very briefly. High-pitched noise as it comes down, but dead silent motors on the trunk lid. And that's what you need to start doing when you get into this category. People are expecting to cross-shop this versus top-level 7 Series versus top-level S-Class. And yes, it is going to be less expensive in this market, but in other markets, this is, you know, this is a $100,000 plus vehicle. Before we go inside, I think I just want to discuss very briefly the battery swap concept here, because a lot of people think battery swap and go, oh, that's dumb, we just need faster charging. I've honestly been in that camp, and I'm not here to say which is the better technology, charging or battery swap, but the one thing that this does offer is both 600 kilowatt charging or swap the battery. And there's like a $4 or $5 service fee equivalent when you go to a battery swap station, and you just pay for the energy in the new battery versus the old one. So if you had 20%, now you're going to 80%, then you would just pay the difference per kilowatt hour. Well, I guess every battery that we've got from NIO so far has been delivered at 93%. And so you just pay that kilowatt hour difference, and it's, I don't know, 20 cents per kilowatt hour, 30 cents per kilowatt hour on the very top end. So it's very reasonable. And I have to really commend NIO. This battery swap thing sounds kind of dumb until you experience it. And I've done, like I mentioned, 2,000 miles of driving NIOs this week in China, all over the country. And, well, all over the Middle Eastern part of the country, if you will, Shanghai, Beijing, Hefei, all around, even in the cities. And the battery swaps have been perfectly executed, under 4 minutes every single time, and they just work. Car auto orders a battery, so I know for sure when I get there I have a battery. If there's a queue, that I got to a station one time when there was one car in front of me that was at the factory, as you would expect, a lot of NIOs going through there. It automatically did the queuing system, and then you're good to go. The one question I have is how quickly will they build out the battery swap stations with this new 925 volt, 100 kilowatt hour pack? They have to get this pack into the stations across China, and ET9's not going to be as high volume as the other models. So I'm hoping this doesn't turn it out to be a disaster, because the other vehicle that's launching with high voltage is their Onvo L60. I've brought it up a few times, that Model Y competitor. That's also high voltage. Those batteries will not be compatible with each other. So now they have to support 3 different platforms with their battery swap stations. The existing, NIO vehicles that we all know and love, the Onvo brand, and this brand being ET9, kind of top-end battery high voltage. I just think when you get this car, if you're one of the early deliveries, there's just not going to be that many batteries out there. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, I hope so, but at the end of the day, the charging performance is going to be really important. And I always like to fast charge. I mean, it's kind of fun. Battery swapping is cool, but there is something fun about optimizing the battery, getting it to a high power station and watching this thing rip in. So it's going to have, I believe NMC chemistry. I'm not sure who's providing the cells, but maybe when we go to the first drive or get to drive it, ourselves, we'll be able to learn more about the technical components of the battery swap. let's do the back seat review first. So I'm going to pop into the correct position on the passenger rear. If you guys want to open up that door so you can see how it goes, you just push the button on the door and the door will automatically open if you stand back. If you can show everyone there. Yep, you got it. Here, I'll demonstrate for you. You should be able just to push this and then auto opens. By the way, really silent electric motors in the doors. Normally you hear zzz. This is dead quiet with the automatic doors. Okay, coming in the back now. Wow, absolutely crazy experience. Double layer glass, well, I should say dual levels of glass going from behind my head all the way to the front of the car. Such a cool experience, almost Bugatti Chiron like, with this central light going across down the center. It's a really, really cool thing. You also have shades that can come in, so I can hit this rear shade button that's coming up. I believe there's like 7 or 9 window shades. I forget exactly. There's like an obscene amount of shades. And you can close up everything. I can close this. Whoa, my seat's moving. Cool. You can roll up the window. NIO's window switches are backwards, by the way. You push back for the window to go up, and you push forward for the window to go down. We've got all the peasant blockers coming up here. This thing is sick. It's so cool. And this is the longest. They need to speed up these window shades. That took like a full 30 seconds for these things to go. And individually you can pull one side back or open up the other. So we'll hit the left side and then the right side, lower the rear shade. But man, do you really feel cocooned in here, which sometimes it's bright out, you just want to get work done, and you really want a cocooned lifestyle. Speaking of getting work done, check this out, yo. Tables. I can pull out this table. Whoa, how does this work? Pull it this way. Well, first of all, you've got a little mirror back here. So if you're, what would you use a mirror for? Nothing illegal. You would just look at yourself. Alyssa is saying it's for illegal purposes. For makeup.
What do you think I was saying?
I thought you were saying you would do cocaine on the mirror.
No, I was doing my eyelashes.
I thought you were simulating a snorting function.
No.
Anyway, yeah, you can look at yourself. See, I can go here and say, hey guys, how's it going? And so, yeah, that's one thing that's built in. We're keeping it PG friendly here, folks.
You are.
I am, yeah.
I am. You are.
Yeah. Table. With some padding and some nice leather on here. But you can just sit here and work, and everything feels super high quality. Everything that looks like metal is metal. And that's something NIO needed. The materials and the feeling of previous NIOs was kind of, I don't know, an ET7 executive. It just like, it shouldn't have the executive badge. It just wasn't there. Meanwhile, this really is. Let me fold this back up, this table. You can see the table comes here on this side, and then the passenger, you don't get a table. Sorry. I think this goes like this. This goes like this. That goes like that. And we have a power port back here and two USB-C ports with wireless phone charging, and I think cooling as well. When you're charging, I think there's a little fan that blows air over, which is lovely. That's really becoming common here in China, and absolutely love that function. Back here, oh yeah, we've got more storage, and we've got a little deep well that you can even hide more things in. That's pretty cool, but no refrigerator. So I'm not really sure why they have the vent in the back, other than maybe this. No idea. Is there a refrigerator down here? I guess it's possible, but I'm not sure. Anyway, now in the rear seat, let me click into here and I can do a bunch of adjustments. So you can adjust the left seat, right seat, the front seats, all from here. So this is my seat. So I can go through and I can adjust my lumbar position. I can adjust my cushion tilt. I can adjust my leg extension, which that's probably my least favorite feature in vehicles. But I love how it gives you a little progress bar of where it is in its movement process. So I can pull this out and you can see this is the position of everything. I can adjust my headrest to come forwards or up, which is lovely. And I can even adjust my backrest angle by sliding down like this. A very comfortable seat. So much adjustment, so much room as well. It really feels nice. It's quite cool, I have to say. But there's some other functions that I can do as well. I can come through and get a hot stone massage, for example. You can even come through and configure your own type of massage, which is pretty cool. But this massage feels even better than the ET7's massage. This has more massaging points. It's really sweet. Yeah, that's pretty sick. Love that. And then we have heated and cooled seats. So I can go cooled seats with the heated massage at the same time. So that's the workaround to do heating and cooling on the seat at the same time, because they typically don't let you do that. Let's see if this one does. Heated and cooling. No, they make you choose. So you go cooled seats, then you go heated massage, then you get both functions. Yep. Pretty sick. And all of this is in Chinese, so I'm figuring it out with you guys in real time. But I know there's like some executive mode that I can like push the seat forward. So I'm trying to figure out how the heck to do that. So give me a second. Oh, dang, look at this. I can fold this down. That's nice. Or I can pull this up. That goes really slow. Also needs to be sped up. But I guess you're lounging in the back of this thing. Who cares? Hotkeys. Temperature adjustments. Wow. All right, let me figure out how to put this in executive mode, and then I'll be back with you guys. All right. Alyssa has figured out the back seat situation. So first of all, to exit the car, I can hit this button up here and the door will open. There's also a button there, but it's quite a reach to reach that button. So I can just boop, hit this and the door will come in and close. That's nice. Then there's a lounging function. So I can hit this button on the side. Yeah, it's that back one there. The front one stops it. And if you look, the front seat is going all the way up. So I'm going to keep my feet up because I don't want to like hit anything. And I'm sliding forwards. I always hate sitting in positions like this, especially on camera. Just feel like it's the least dignifying way to sit in a vehicle. And what are you supposed to do when you sit like that? I don't know. Just go down the road, sleep, close the shades. I don't think I could sleep like this.
But you enjoyed it on the first class on the plane.
I think I would have to go like to the side.
Well, yeah,
And then you'd be okay.
side sleeper.
But you know what's nice is I'm 6'1" or 1.86 m, and I can sit perfectly. But I don't think I could be 1 inch taller, or maybe I'd need shoes that don't have as much of an off-roading tread pattern for all my off-road adventures here. So yeah, I think if you just wore normal shoes, you could probably be 6'3" and make this work. Other than that, not so sure. So then I'm going to click the forward button here, and everything's going to go back to normal. Love the B-pillar vents, love these vents, all adjustable here through the screen, of course, which I'm actually going to put back down so I can show you more of the center console. But that's an executive experience. That's like, really, this feels top world-class interior vibes here. And the fact that it's only 100 grand or just over 100 grand, there's two ways to buy the car. You can choose to buy the car without the battery, and then you just lease the battery, or you just buy the car with the battery, or sorry, buy the car without the battery, and then you, what was that? I got all confused. You buy the car without the battery, you pay a monthly fee, then you can battery swap, do all that stuff. I guess you can either way. Or you buy the car with the battery, you pay an extra 10 or 20 grand to have the battery with the car, which to me sounds pretty good. But then you can still battery swap. So what's the difference? Just lease it. Yeah, I still don't fully understand the whole battery buying versus leasing mentality. Maybe one day we can dive into the economics of battery leasing versus buying. That would be an interesting one, because I see pros and cons to both. I'm just not sure which one I would personally choose. I'd have to learn and look into it a little bit more. Anyway, wireless charger we mentioned. The tablet goes here. Alyssa, what were you doing?
Looking at this screen, and that interior color is really nice.
Yeah, that's the interior color to go for. And then you've got just 2 cup holders.
But, you know, not heated and not cooled.
Yeah, I know. They should be heated and cooled.
That's something that we have not seen in this market.
Is heated and cooled cup holders.
Yeah, and I feel like that would be a very Chinese. They like to keep their water warm. They like to keep their water warm and all that stuff. So having a heated cup holder would be very helpful. There you go.
Totally agree, Alyssa. She wants heated and cooled cup holders, because we saw that in the G-Wagon. Yep. All right, what does this do? Nothing, just a design thing already shown in there. We also have little reading lights that can pop out, and they kind of light up the area. One thing I've noticed is there's no like spotlights in here, a little coat hook. No spotlights in here, just sort of diffused lighting wherever you go. And I think that's really nice. Oh, when you turn that on, Alyssa, look here. This also turned on right here. So you just have this carpet of light that comes over everything, which is much better than like a spotlight. Okay, yeah, we've also got the coat hook over here. Let's pop out of this thing. By the way, the sound system in here, we can't show it on camera, almost 3,000 watts. It's a 2,800 watt big boy sound system. I'm definitely going to sample it a little bit in here. This is insane. Let's jump up to the front seat. Alyssa is now going to open up the door by hitting this button, and you're going to see a blind spot view of me. And then if I stand out of the way, the door will continue to open without having to do anything. That is a nice feature. Now please, out this way. All I have to do is just touch on the door handle right here. Boop. And the door will automatically close this way. Heading inside of the ET9 now, I can just approach. The door automatically opens, and then to close it, well, we got to adjust the seating position. I can just touch the brake pedal and the door will close. That is nothing new. That is 2016 Model X has gotten there. Of course, you have a bunch of different seating configurations that you can save. You can save a relaxing mode. You can save a movie watching mode, kind of whatever you want. And then we're in here. Let's roll up all the windows in this thing. Dead quiet window motors, double pane glass, really nicely done all around, I think. The one issue I have, and this is my main issue with the whole car, and it's just a really big issue for me, is the seat is mounted this high, this much too high. I'm in the lowest seating position, and it gives you this really cool view of the road. But I feel like if I go around a corner, I'm going to fall out the window. Like I feel like I'm sitting way up on the car. It's super odd. So I just wish I could lower this thing down. One cool thing is if you go through this touchscreen, you have like sort of this display. I really love how NIO uses the displays in the car to show different cool things about it. There's even like a little virtual tour that I can take you guys in here, which is really great. But before I do that and we get into Sky OS and we get into the NT Cedar, this is their software running on everything. I should mention there are two air-cooled, air cooling, I guess, wireless phone chargers. There's an NFC card reader here. If you, your phone dies, you have it as a backup. You do have a little storage cubby here. You can put some small things in here. And in the video review I watched from my friend Thomas at AutoGefool, this just removed, and this car, it feels locked in. So maybe his car was like an earlier prototype where that went flying. This appears to stay locked in, which is really nice. We have two cup holders here again, also looking quite plasticky and cheap. If you can zoom in on this here, this really needs to be improved, I think, to match with the price point of the car. They're so close on everything. It's just this needs to be a better material. I mean, Mercedes went to like this type of cheap plastic inside their interiors, and it didn't really work out well for them. And I think NIO needs to not just have the sort of A surface, the top stuff that you see being really nice. They need the B surface, the stuff down here, to be really kind of dialed in as well. Then you have this sort of interactive touch bar that can be controlled through just touching around. So I can come out of this, for example, and I can adjust the volume by sliding up and down. I can change the track by swiping. I can zoom in on a bunch of stuff, but it's playing some Chinese authentic music there, which we don't necessarily need to get in the video. But this is cool that you can have this, and everything can be software updated and controlled into the future. So what this touch bar does today, it's a bit like the touch bar on the old MacBook Pros, which I really liked. I'm sad they got rid of that. It was nice to like scrub through my timeline when I was editing videos for you guys. You can do a multitude of functions down here. Then I can open up this dual folding center armrest with two USB-C ports in here as well. And I think that's a really nice feature. You can tell they got a lot of cues from Mercedes, a lot of cues from Tesla, a lot of cues from BMW, and kind of merged all these ideas together with their own Chinese luxury flair. Again, my comments on the seating position is because I'm a pretty big dude, and like probably the average size of the buyer of this car is going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, and it may not be that much of a problem. Whoa, just turning the steering wheel there, I can feel both axles very quickly turning position. That's so funny. Doing this, I can look in the mirror and watching them do that. So it feels very much like a Cybertruck steering system, which is, as a Cybertruck owner, one of my favorite things about the entire vehicle, if not the best thing about the vehicle, is the steer-by-wire, where you can just but again, it all completely comes down to tuning. And this is the first system that is approved by the Chinese government to be released for road use. So I'm pretty excited to try this out. On the steering wheel as well, you have all of your driver assistance functions on the left side. I can pull up the 360 cams, which don't look as high quality as I was expecting them to be. Yeah, not sure what's going on with that. I can go to a 3D view, and then you can see the car is here. Also not color matching the car that we have. So those are little things that I thought, oh, okay, other automakers can match the color to the car pretty regularly, and they also have much higher quality cameras. So perhaps this is something we can see improved through software updates, but I can focus on the front wheels, the back wheels, you know, sort of both over here. And yeah, I just thought that would be a little bit better. But on the left side of the wheel, I also can pull up my quick driving functions, where I have my suspension adjustments. I have, I don't know, damper. We'll have to go through and see. We've got wet mode. We've got snow mode, sport mode, and individual configuration, even an executive mode that it can go in. This raises the suspension up to pretty high, softens everything down, and just gives you this most controlled, crazy, dead smooth ride. And I know that because the ET7 that I was driving, which is a completely different architecture, chassis, suspension setup, also rode really comfortably in executive mode. So I really love that. We'll go out and we can lower the suspension down to slam mode. Just heard the air compressor kick off and then start dumping air out, which is pretty funny. We'll go through all the settings here in a little bit, but I just have to commend them on this layout, on this screen being the proper size, nothing too big, but a really snappy response. Again, all of the chips are done internally. No Snapdragon A295XYZ in here. This is all NIO. At least that's what they tell me. Maybe we'll find some supplier-based stuff in there at some point, but for now, that's kind of what they're saying, which is pretty cool. Again, all of your driver assistance is done on the left side of the steering wheel pad here, and then your right side is sort of music, volume, track left and right, stuff like that. And then you have a programmable hotkey, and I can also adjust my upper screen here from showing music to efficiency to, yeah, more efficiency numbers. That's nice. It actually gives you miles per kilowatt hour, or, you know, the equivalent consumption meter, which the ET7 did not do for us for some reason. And yeah, so you can just go through. On the very far left, I have my speed, my state of charge, 52% right now, showing 337 kilometers CLTC, so you will never achieve that because it's just a straight lie. And you even have a passenger display on the other side over there that's showing efficiency, and I'm not sure if it's touchscreen. It doesn't seem to be, but I'm sure it's configurable as to what you can show over there on the passenger display. Before we go into the main screen, I should just comment there's a little bit extra storage down here on the bottom. And, you know, this is a car designed really for China and for the China market and for what Chinese buyers expect from a luxury vehicle, which means it is going to be different than a Maybach, a 7 Series, a Model S, or, you know, a Lucid Air, et cetera, et cetera. And it really does seem to fit with what buyers are compelled to here. Just standing here at the mall and seeing people come through. This is the second ET9 I've seen. I was in Beijing a couple days, or yesterday actually, with an ET9, and seeing people come into that showroom and people just going, wow, the interior is amazing. The materials are amazing. The XYZ is really amazing. And I go, oh, okay, well, maybe different stuff than I would look for in a car. But then again, I'm like kind of oddly attracted to this one as well. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of works for me. And I'm really appreciating this sort of land yacht isn't the right word, but sort of this old school American sedan where there was no handling, no power. It was just comfort cruising, and no other attributes were thought about. I'm not saying this is to that extreme, but it just does seem to be about how do you make it the quietest, most supple ride down the road. And like, yeah, it's got a sport mode, but no one really cares if it really drives that well. That's my impression of what the Chinese buyers are looking for. But I hope they do dial in that fine tuning and character, because it is even if, when your car is super sporty and handles well, that does translate to daily driving, just giving you the sense of stability and comfort and reassurance that if you have to do something, the car will respond in a great and predictable manner, which most Chinese cars just don't at this point. This one might be the first one. What I'm able to do is we're going to go into the system. I'm going to show you the 5D cinema experience mode where the suspension will match what's happening to the movie displayed. So like if something drops from the sky, the whole car will oof, come down. So while you're charging or while you're sitting in your driveway, which is a common thing to do, you can spend time with your vehicle. As a lot of Chinese buyers spend, I think on average, more than 30 minutes per day just sitting in their vehicle, not driving. Someone told me that statistic. I'm not sure if it's true, but I do just see a lot of people just sitting in their electric cars, just playing around with them, watching movies. A lot of Tesla owners just watching TV on their cars. And we've got Red Note app, NIO app, all of these things. By the way, if you're on Xiaohongshu, I am as well. I downloaded the Red Note app after the whole TikTok debacle, before this video went up, probably way before, and we kind of blew up on the first day. So shout out to you guys if you've seen our videos over there. It was really, really fun to see all of that. So what I need to do is get a translator because there's no English version here. We'll get them, and then we'll go through all of the software in the ET9. All right, guys, time for the software tour here. So the first thing I want to show you is you just have this really nice display. Super cool, relatively thin bezels. Everything looks really nice here. And as you would expect from NIO, you have some basic functions across the top to indicate, Bluetooth connection as well as your phone signal, or I should say data signal, and then your bottom bit is where all of the real hardcore apps go. In typical NIOs, you would swipe to the left. However, with ET9, you actually swipe from the top to get all of your quick functions, and this is customizable and adjustable. So here we have settings like rear trunk, rear spoiler, head-up display, which is absolutely massive in this particular one, and many other things. So I just love that you can swipe down, have customizable quick functions to the one you're interested in most. For example, for filming, we always keep it on parking light mode. Boom, right there. You also have this digital rear view mirror that you can pull up, which I think is pretty cool. So lots of options to go in there. To show you just a quick smorgasbord of apps, you have a bunch to choose from. So you have phone and calendar and your Sentry mode and built-in dash camera, which is really amazing. You also have different music streaming applications. Of course, this car is a China spec vehicle with China specific applications, but maybe one day if it ever comes to Europe, you'll see some European ones like Spotify perhaps. My fingers are crossed it comes, and that's what we get, but we don't know for sure when or if that will happen. We also have some other like NIO shopping apps in here, Bluetooth connectivity, and yeah, just great apps all around. Let's see what this one does. We have a 360 cam view, so showed you that earlier as well. To go into the settings, because that's the main portion, actually on the way, I'll just show you all the air vents can be configured, just touching and moving them around. Heated, cooled massage in every single seat. Automatic air conditioning syncing function. I can go for, all of those here. And then you have your, sort of rear seat. Actually, what does this do here?
The ambient lights.
Ah, okay, ambient lighting. So cool.
Themes. These are the themes.
Okay, so we can come through and choose different colors for ambient lighting, or even a custom one if you want. So we can go like purple. And Alyssa, if you wouldn't mind showing by your door over there, you can go through and we can go, yellow, whatever everyone wants, basically. That's pretty nice. Love that function. And then, of course, you have your sound system experience. We talked a little bit about this, but over 30 speakers, over 2,800 watts, absolutely insane. Actually, just before this clip, I had a chance to sample it a little bit, and they don't let the audio go all the way up in this demonstration mode that it's in, but wow, it sounded so nice with this Dolby 5.1 experience and even more. It's just really, really cool to see a car like this with a seriously impressive sound system. So that I cannot wait to experience when we drive it for the first time. The big thing though is going through some of the settings. So we're going to gloss through some of this. So obviously your first, when you click the car option, is you'll have your quick controls, opening the charging port, sunshades, which door you want to have open, pedestrian warning. I'm guessing this one is. Yeah, so it actually, what it does is it shines a light. Emma, is that correct?
这个是干嘛的？
差不多他说的就是灯，它就是如果说你打开以后，你看大灯会在前面投影，就是人走路的那个，对。
Yeah, you're basically right.
It just makes the pathway on the ground for people crossing, which is really cool. It can also do sort of a magic carpet effect for the lane, which we've seen from other vehicles as well, and your rear fog. I love that it can create its own crosswalk for people. That's hilarious. You have your steering wheel adjustments, which I can sort of adjust here. Oh yeah, it's all the way up, and then it can come out pretty far actually, which is kind of surprising. Wow, this is maybe the most amount of length a wheel ever comes out I've ever tested. That's built for Kyle Connor right there. I love that. Get the wheel right up here in race position. So that's fantastic. There's also dog mode, which is super important. So you can put on your pet functions, it stays on, you can monitor it, all of that stuff. From a charging perspective, again, I cannot wait to experience the Curve. My guess is they'll recommend a 90-ish% daily charging limit. This one was set to 70% probably for storage. It's just sitting here. Some more settings, guys, as we get over to the charging options. Already showed you some of this, but there's also like automatic reservations for certain stations. For AC charging, there's also your manual preconditioning button. You can come here, it will preheat the battery pack on the way to the charger or battery swap, or you can leave it automatic if it's in the car and it's already routing you there. There's also vehicle to load, both 220 volt in and out of the vehicle, so you can turn both of those on from here. And then of course you can choose the two different ways that range is displayed to the user. If you look all the way in this corner where my left hand is, Alyssa, you'll see at 51%, it's indicating 334 kilometers of CLTC range, which is pretty much impossible to hit. So you can actually hit an estimated range, and it's based off of how the car is being driven. Now this car, I don't know how it's been driven. It may not have been driven at all, but it's gone down to 225 kilometers estimated. But again, that's all based off of drive cycle, and I'm not sure in which cycle this car was driven before. We also have some car information that we can go through. You can have tire pressure monitoring, your efficiency shown here, also your previous consumption, where are the consumers coming from, which is cool, and over a different period of time or drive cycles, which is nice. I really love that it gives you kilowatt hours per 100K. Some other NIO cars don't always show you the efficiency in terms of miles per kilowatt hour, or some sort of consumption metric, and here of course you can get it over a bunch of different drive cycles that you have to choose. There's also car wash mode, trailer mode, not that this will tow, but if this has to go on a trailer, and of course you have tire changing mode and a few other great functions as well. Coming through, we have our driveline settings, but there's also a quick hotkey to get to this menu. So if I exit out of this, on this bottom left-hand side of the steering wheel, I can click that and we'll pull up a bunch of driving settings. So you have adjustable suspension height and stiffness, other functions as well, such as snow mode, water, executive mode, sport mode, and individual, which I think is a really great function. So that's an expanded view. I can also come in here and further refine each mode and say, okay, I want suspension to be uber comfortable here when I select this, and so on and so forth. So really, really great options. We have auto lifting for when you exit the vehicle. It can jump up when you open the door to make getting in and out easier, and just a bunch of other settings for speed and braking. They have that great easy brake function since it's an integrated brake-by-wire system. You can essentially hit one brake pedal pressure, and as you come to a stop, it will, at the last second, ease up on the brakes to give you this really nice, gentle stop. So you don't have to lift off on the brake pedal right at the end as you're coming down to avoid jerkiness for your passengers. A lot of Chinese cars are having this. Again, it comes down to the tuning. Did NIO do it correctly? Something we'll have to play around with when we drive it, but I'm glad they're thinking there. There's some not functions that aren't totally ready yet, but I can show you a little bit of the driver assistance options, forward collision warning, automatic braking, stuff like that. I'm sure this is going to have incredible driver assistance functions. I really can't wait to play around with it and show you all of that when we go for a drive. Other functions such as alarm and sentry mode and camera monitoring. You can load up the car from the app and see what's around it as well. You can see Nomi's actually dancing up here. She's not bored with this yet, but maybe you guys are, which is why I'm blasting through it. A lot of other safety related functions, seatbelt alarms, etc., etc. Nomi has her own entire option base. She's incredibly powerful. You can talk to her, ask her anything. You can have like a natural conversation. It works really well. And I think the biggest sign to show that Nomi works well is a lot of the NIO employees that we've been able to hang out with this trip actually use Nomi almost exclusively to control functions, rolling up and down windows, asking to navigate places. And whenever I think about voice control in a car, I just think it's the worst possible thing ever. However, Nomi really seems powerful. And I think this is a real unique selling point of NIO, is to have this virtual assistant that also can work on the NIO phone and a bunch of other NIO related products. So they've got this nailed. It works super well. And yeah, she's fun. She speaks English now as well. Not perfect, but she's getting there. A million sound system settings that you can come through and customize the EQ on this big boy sound system. You can see you can tailor it to go for a certain screen or certain seating position. You can come in here to the Pro EQ, adjust a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8 band EQ in a bunch of different ways. Jordan would have a field day with all of this. And then you can pre-program in certain EQ settings that either you or even other users can create and share either online or maybe even through the car one day to dial in the sound system, which would be really fun. So I really can't wait to experience this sound system underway with active noise cancellation. It should just be an incredible highway experience. There's also a massive head-up display that I mentioned that is huge in the view in front. Great functionality that can come through here. A bunch of other screen settings that we can come through. And it's just awesome. Other than that, you have your typical connections and software update. It's a preview version that we're on right now. And then, yeah, so that's most of the settings in the car. It's just hugely powerful, very well thought out, has everything you would really expect to see in a car of this nature. There's also this really cool demo for Skyride, which is this sort of intelligent chassis system. And I want to show you this system here, where I'm actually going to turn down the volume, but it has, like I mentioned, steer-by-wire, rear-wheel steering, and full active suspension. So this is stuff that may not be totally unusual in the American market, actually, but it's cool to see the Chinese market coming to focusing on these driving dynamics. But I love that you can see the hydraulic pump, the processor that's in there, and the amount of times that it can respond. The car's also moving now as it's showing us some of the things. It's showing us the power of how it can use. And I'll get the outside clip to overlay here as well. But this is such a cool demonstration of when you don't have a physical sway bar connecting each corner in the vehicle, how it can work. So it's first going to show us what it feels like going over speed bumps with this system off. So we're going over at least, sort of a little bit of a angled speed bump. The car is moving around. It's showing us what it would feel like with the full active suspension system turned off. And now we hit it and you can barely feel a thing. Now, of course, this is tuned for a showroom demonstration. How accurate is this in the real world? I don't know, but it's also one of the coolest displays to ever show you what it feels like to ride down a road, but sitting inside a mall. It's really amazing to feel the difference. Here we're testing some secondary surface bumps, some potholes as well, some big inputs into the suspension, and you can get a feeling of what it's like with the system off, some head toss, cars moving around a little bit. And man, I feel like we're out on the road. It's amazing how it can just totally replicate what kind of road it was on. Now, of course, I can tell that the left side is just vaguely hitting a pothole in the road. It's not adjusting the sort of angle from a head toss perspective. Super, super nicely done. If anything, it's just a cool display. I really love this. And now we're coming across a bridge with expansion joints. So we have, huge primary and secondary road inputs coming in. The car is moving around with the suspension turned off. And then we're going to go through that again. Huge bump at the end with some wallop going. It's really hard to just control this much weight without having a hydraulic component unless you have really nicely set up dampers. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what that last bump is going to feel like coming off the bridge. Wow, just a little, barely anything. So the whole active suspension system should compensate on the road. And now we're going to be on this little B road. We don't need to keep this going all the time, but it is cool to just sure, it's like we're on a roller coaster ride, which is really, really freaking fun. So if anything, it's a really cool display to show what it's like and without. Just another few seconds left. I guess we'll let it go all the way through. Now we have their full active suspension activated and it's going through and it'll show, okay, counteracting all the forces, removing a lot of those wheel impacts from the body. The wheel still has to roll over everything, of course, but how can you isolate the body from it? And it's the first time I've really seen a Chinese automaker take this level of chassis and driveline tuning, hopefully driveline, but at least chassis tuning so seriously. And, it's something that doesn't really translate that easily in a mall because you go, oh, active suspension, great. But until you experience it on the road and on different types of road surfaces, you don't really get a sense of how important this type of technology is in a luxury car. So anyway, ET9 has it. it's all up to the tuning, so I don't know how well it'll work until we drive it. But with this level of effort in the display, I can only hope and keep my fingers crossed that it's really going to be dialed in. So there you have it, the NIO ET9. This thing, style-wise, looks so much better in person than I was expecting. The specs just seem absolutely off the charts. I really can't wait to try it out. There's a couple question marks. I'm surprised it's only a 100 kilowatt hour pack for something this big. NIO already offers a 150 kilowatt hour pack for their low voltage cars. So I'm curious why their top level sedan doesn't have the biggest battery. Maybe it's not needed. Maybe it doesn't translate in the real world. Maybe the charging performance offsets some of this. I also can't wait to try the new driver assistance with the added LiDARs. Driver assistance is hugely important in all markets, and in China there's really Tesla FSD competitors. In the US they're in the league of their own, but here there's a bunch of systems that are just driving around the city by themselves, and I cannot wait to experience how well this thing does. And in general, I just think it's going to be one hell of a cruiser. High power charging, battery swapping, executive rear seat, banging sound system. It's everything you want. Why would you buy a Maybach? At least in the Chinese market, that just seems so silly. These cars are getting so good so quickly, and they have the quality, they have the feeling. What's it going to be like on the road? I don't know. But based off of this suspension system, man, I just think their legacy auto or existing automakers have just no chance to keep up with the innovation and speed of the Chinese car market, especially if they're going to go this hardcore into driving dynamics, because that was the last stronghold of the Germans, was like they drove really well and Chinese cars didn't. But this really does have its own possibility of maybe matching or exceeding some of the real German luxury counterparts. So can't wait to drive it. There's still a lot more unknown about this car that we need to learn from getting it on the road: range, charging, ride quality, handling. But the initial impression is amazing. I can't wait for this technology to trickle down into the rest of the NIO lineup, and I'm just excited. Cannot wait to get this thing out on the road. Huge shout out to NIO for letting us film this and closing off this little section in their mall showroom here outside of Shanghai. And an even bigger thank you to you guys for watching this video. So thanks so much. We'll see you in another one again soon. Bye-bye.